Hope you've been having a wonderful week. I want to study with you a Midrash that really touches on a few different points, and there are a few different messages that emerge forth. So what we'll do is we'll just read through the text, and I'll try to point out what's so touching about some of these Midrashim, what's the message, what's the lesson that we can learn from it. It's not just a text that's trying to explain a crazy the story of a crazy image, but there's really some beauty in what is being described here. So the beginning of Parshat Beshalach talks about the Jewish people leaving Egypt, and the Torah describes that the children of Israel came out. V'chamushim elu b'nei Yisrael. They came out with some weaponry, and they also came up shalu mizuyanin. You could also say that means that they came out filled with all sorts of stuff. What does the Torah describe about Moshe in this moment as they're leaving? Yikach Moshe atzmot Yosef. What was Moshe doing? He went to go and collect the bones of Yosef. Alav hakatuv omer. Upon Moshe, the pasuk says, Chacham lev yikach mitzvot. That the wise-hearted one goes and does the commandment. Shekol Yisrael hayu asukim b'kesef v'zahav. As they're getting ready to leave Egypt, what are all the Jews doing? They're grabbing the gold and the silver, and they're going crazy on the material goods here, which is okay because God kind of commanded that. But they're going nuts with the silver and the gold. What was Moshe doing? As they're all grabbing silver and gold, Moshe asuk b'atzmot Yosef. Moshe was busy going to collect the bones of Yosef. Shneimar, as the Torah says, vayikach Moshe atzmot Yosef. It really attaches the bones of Yosef specifically to Moshe, not to the Jewish people took his bones out. Moshe did it. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu LaMoshe. God said to Moshe, Alecha nitkayem chacham levi kach mitzvot. This verse in Mishlei in Proverbs is really about you. The wise-hearted takes the commandment, does what needs to be done. Here they all are. They're grabbing money and they're grabbing jewelry. And what are you doing? You're going to make sure that the bones of Yosef are taken with the Jewish people when they leave. Yosef Yosef was obligated to go to Israel and to bury his father because he was a son. V'ata, you Moshe, lo beno, v'lo ben beno. You're not a son. You're not even a grandson. V'lo hayita chayav la'asok bo. This wasn't your personal obligation, but v'kavarta oto. But you made sure that Yosef was going to get the proper burial in the land of Israel that he so desired. Me, God, I'm not obligated to do anything for you, for any person. But one day when it's your time to go, I will personally see to it to attend to your burial. Because of this, what you did. That God buried Moshe, we're told at the end of Dvarim. So first of all, this first part of the Midrash, what really stands out to me is that Moshe is able to really, as everyone else is dealing with the material, wealth, which is okay. God told them they could do that. Moshe is the one who's carrying the mental load here of, but there are things that we have to take care of. Promises that were made. And, okay, it was the big rush, and maybe we should just leave and whatever, and we'll come back one day to get him. No, we're not doing that. And if it means that I have to take it on myself, I'm going to take it on myself. And how often we find ourselves in a situation where, it's too complicated, I need other people. If no one else is going to do it, forget it, then I'm not going to do it either. But we shouldn't have that attitude. We should have the attitude of Moshe here, which is that we pursue what needs to be done, even if it's just going to fall on us and it means that we're doing extra. So just be happy that we have that opportunity. Moshe doesn't complain about it, and look what happens. God says that's a wise-hearted person who just does what needs to be done, and then he personally sort of rewards Moshe by being the one to bury Moshe. The Midrash continues. Uminayin haya Moshe yodea hechan haya Yosef kavor. A really great question. How did Moshe know where Yosef was buried? Where was he? Where were his bones in Egypt? So Yesh Omer, there are two stories of how he found it. One story is that he spoke to Serach bat Asher. Serach, who's mentioned in the Torah, is the daughter of Asher, and she was one of the last surviving of the generation of the children of the 12 sons of Yaakov. And Serach maybe personally knew where that had been buried. So her Ahoto, she showed it to him. V'haya kavur banilus. Where was it? It was in the Nile River. He was buried in the Nile. And I guess somewhere in the Nile. I don't exactly understand how that works. Me'asa, Moshe. What did Moshe do? So he ends up, trying to he calls out essentially to the bones of Yosef, and then they start to kind of move around, and he's able to find where they are. So that's one version of the story. And what this version of the story teaches us, I think, is, how did he find it? Well, he asked an old lady who knew because she was there. How did Moshe know things? Because he turned to the generation that was older than him, that was wiser than him, that had more knowledge than him. And he sought out their advice and their wisdom. And whether that's really the story or not, how it all happened, the message and the lesson is that one of Moshe's great successes, and the reason for his success, is that he was able to turn to others and listen to others for help. And we see this actually very much in Parshat Yitro, which is next week's Parsha, when he's able to listen and take the advice of Yitro. And he ends up setting up a system of a court system where he gives others the power. And he turns to others as well. When he has the Shivim Zakanim, he has the elders. He really values other people and their wisdom and their opinions when they are well thought out. And that's what it means that he sought out Serach. Because he knew that someone else could help him in this. He doesn't have to be the leader who gets it all done by himself. And I can't ask for help. I'm Moshe. That wasn't Moshe, and that shouldn't be who we are either. We should also seek out those with great wisdom, particularly those who are older than us, whose life experience can teach us a lot. The second answer to the question, V'yesh Omrim, what happened? How did he find the bones of Yosef? The other version of the story is that they were in the palace. They were in some sort of Patoch Hapal Terin, Hayakavur. He was buried in some sort of palace. Kederach Shaham Malachim Kavur, like other kings were buried. I don't know if this is a reference to pyramids here, but he has some sort of structure where royalty is buried, and he was in one of these structures. V'asu Mitzrayim Klovim Shel Zahav, and the Egyptians had put in charge these golden dogs. Don't ask me what that means. Bich Shafim, I guess with using some magic, they created these dogs of gold. She'im Yavo Adam Lisham, if a person tried to come and to visit one of these burial sites of the royalty of Egypt, what would happen? Yunovchin, they would bark, the dogs would bark. V'kolan holech b'chol eretz Mitzrayim mahalach arba'im yom. And the sounds of the barking would carry throughout the land of Egypt to the distance of 40 days worth of travel. V'shitkan Moshe, and Moshe was able to silence these dogs. That's what the pasuk says earlier in Shemot when it says "Ulechol bnei Yisrael lo yecheratz kelev lishano." That the dogs didn't make any kind of sounds or issues or whatnot. They didn't harass the Jewish people. This is what means that the dogs didn't harass the Jewish people, because when Moshe was to go to find the bones, they didn't bark. And this is why he was able to get those bones out of Egypt. And the Egyptians, they want to protect that. And I think what we can take away from this story, this version of the story, is that oftentimes things can seem very challenging and impossible. Right? There are these golden magical dogs, but it didn't stop Moshe from trying to find a way to figure out. Now, how he silenced them, it doesn't actually say. But one could have been discouraged by even attempting this. And yet, he does not stop. He does whatever needs to be done to make sure that promises are kept and that the Jewish people are doing what they are responsible for. And I think it's really a fascinating message for us about how we should always continue to make sure that our responsibilities are taken care of, even when the situation looks like it's something that, well, we'll never be able to do that. We should never take that attitude, and we should always try to see if there are ways that we can accomplish our communal goals and our individual goals that are standing in front of us in life. It's been a pleasure learning with you, and I hope these different Midrashim are interesting. I encourage you to read the rest of the Midrash. There are some fascinating things in there as well, but we'll stop here. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.